A doctor's career has typically followed a distinct path: medical school, specialization, clinical practice, or perhaps research. Recently, this path has begun to shift. A growing number of healthcare professionals are taking on new roles, not just as care providers, but as innovators. They lead product teams, apply clinical insights to AI, and develop digital platforms. In today's podcast, we explore one such journey with Dr Manthan Mehta, a physician, pharmacologist, and now co-founder of Iksa.ai, an AI-powered healthcare platform focused on bridging the patient engagement gap without disrupting the doctor-patient relationship. From clinical training to leadership roles in pharmaceutical industry and eventually to entrepreneurship, Dr. Mehta walks us through the key moments that shaped his transition. Let's dwell into this insightful journey and explore what it means for the future of doctor-led innovation in healthcare. Dr. Manthan Mehta, thank you so much for coming down from Mumbai to our studio in Pune. I'm super excited, to discuss with you. It's been many days that we are talking, and thankfully now we are focusing on startups in AI in healthcare. And your name came first whenever I was like, okay, search my database, your name was there. Thank you so much. I would like to start talking about, we both are MBBS and MD in Pharmacology. So let's start there. I never wanted to be a doctor. My father told me you should be a doctor. That's why I did that. Okay. What was your inspiration? Why you wanted to become a doctor? And then how actually you thought that you should get into MD in Pharmacology?
I think great, and it's nice that, a lot of MD pharmacologists are on both sides of podcasts these days. And I'm really glad to be here. And I think for the name featuring is, I think that brings in the element of MD Pharmacology. Ki you have this thing of doing something different, right? And we keep hearing about taking the road less traveled. And I had, of course, a background story before, taking up a specialty, and some things didn't go well. And I had to decide that I'm not getting my first passion. Then what do I do? And every time I'm like, if I don't do that, if I go to the hospital, I'm always going to be like, no, I could have been that, but I'm something else. I said, let me remove that element only. Let me go to a non-clinical side and see what happens. 2-3 elements to it. Yeah, when I was doing my MBBS, I was very keen on research. And as luck might have had it, that time there was an MUHS fellowship in pharmacology that KEM Hospital would host. And I applied for it, and that year there were no takers except me. So they put me in a small crash course that they had with ICMR with the same faculty and a lot of things happening. But yeah, so I was like, this is a good branch. Someday I can take it. But by the time you start clinical branches and come to internship, you are all like, you see the entire glamour of all the head of departments of medicine, surgery, commanding things in the hospital, and you're like, this is where I want to be. But as luck might have had it, things changed, and I rethought that, why don't I think about this branch which I liked so much and which has research, which has different elements. And I did locum. So, not like you not wanting to, continue clinical practice and just be one. I always wanted to be a doctor since childhood. I did it, and I saw some dark sides of medical practice. And I said, my ethics and ambition probably don't match when I do this. And also I get bored very quickly. So I said, eventually, if I keep doing one specialty and see the patients every day, and then that's going to be monotonous for me as well. So I thought I'll, deviate a little. Let's see what I can do, which is not monotonous. Then I heard about pharmacology, its scope, industry, corporate jobs, and used to always fancy, all these people who take one-nighters and move at the airport. And when I would go on holiday, I would ask my parents, I said, who are these people? So, someday you will also be this way. That if you study hard, you will be this. And I said, yeah, I've studied hard. Now probably I should learn how to live out of a suitcase. So I think the glamour around the field, which is not known to many, probably attracted me. There was a bit of a pull there. There's research, there's science, there's corporate, there is marketing, selling, and, giving talks every day.
Correct.
So one of my mentors who pushed me in a way into it is saying, you like talking, you like traveling, you like research, you like wearing suits. He said, just take it up. So I think, that's where we are today. So,
nice. And I agree with you. Especially in pharma sector, Pharma, we don't praise them, but they treat the MD Pharmac people, they treat you very well. Your travel, your stay, and the glamour that is around all the pharma company, working with a pharma company, it's nice. Of course, you do get importance when you are a practicing doctor. All these things are there, but for MD Pharmacology, it's a different charm. I agree with you. Tell me one thing. When was this? Like, where did you do your MBBS and MD?
So I did my MBBS from Mumbai and from Terna, and I passed out in 2013. Then did my MD from Topiwala National Medical College and Nair Hospital in Bombay again.
Okay.
And did that till 2017. Then we have the government bond, so I was there in Nair for another year.
Okay.
2018, and then I joined the pharma industry.
Okay. Oh, nice. And that 1 year bond was possible in Mumbai. It's usually a rural service.
Yeah, so it's merit based, and thankfully I had my academic acumen till 2017. Now I don't think I can study that way, but so I was first in Mumbai. So it was merit based, so I could choose a college and preference of my liking, and I wanted Nair. My HOD was gracious enough. It was taking some time to open the bond seat in Nair, but he tried and pushed it a little faster to hold me back for another year. And I still remember the dean telling him in Marathi, I'll just translate and tell you that he's got wings now, you'll have to let him fly someday. You can't keep holding him back. So but that kind of fascination was there, and I'm very proud of being there at Nair, and lovely department, and I owe everything that I'm there, because it gave a lot of freedom. You know how the residency works in MD Pharmac, where it's extreme. Either you're doing only academics, only research, not having too much growth for self-learning or industry exposure, etc. Our department was quite good that way in permitting me to do all the extracurricular kind of stuff which I wanted to do.
Okay. So. Interesting. My mandatory rural service was for 2 years. For us, it was 2 years. I don't know how it is 1 year or anything, but for me, it was 2 years. My criteria was who's paying the highest, So those times, Gujarat was the highest payers for any MBBS person. Nice. So I was working in Kharel. There is a Gram Seva Trust, which hospital is there. Wonderful hospital, wonderful setup. And they was paying the highest, as well as like providing accommodation, food, everything. So I was like, that's my criteria. I'll go over there. So I was in Gujarat, and I can speak Gujarati.
Lovely.
Yeah, and I can read, understand. That time I was able to read. Now I understand enough.
Nice.
Yeah, but funny thing is, I've learned Gamdani Gujarati.
Oh.
Because I was with Dhodia Patel community, and it's like a rural area in Dang and everything.
That's very different. I think that will not match with Bombay Gujarati.
Yes, and I went to Ahmedabad, and I was trying to speak Gujarati, like, no, don't. So they know like what Gujarati I was speaking.
It's like my Marathi, I mean, we can speak decently in Bombay and everywhere, and but then when you come to Pune, you come to Ahmednagar, I think they instantly realize, and they only start talking to you in Hindi, saying, let it be. Or they'll instantly tell you that you're from Bombay, or Marathi is from Bombay.
Yes, so, it's so much of difference in regional languages,
absolutely.
Right? So after your MD, where did you join? You were in pharma sector.
So I was with Big Pharma. I started with Boehringer Ingelheim, and worked as a medical advisor there. Then moved to Novartis as a medical advisor, and then a medical lead. And then I think fortunately enough, most people always want different life cycle exposures within the pharma industry, that I want to look at drugs, pre-launch, launch. I want to do a launch, which is very coveted. I want to do an LOE maybe, to get a very different kind of exposure, or do very, very pre-launch like L-5 and stuff. And I got exposure to all of that within the 5 years that I worked. So, that eventually then I felt like, okay, it's going great, but this is probably what I'll keep doing even till I become the medical director. It's just that today I'm doing it myself, then I delegate a little, then I delegate more, and my stakeholders keep changing. Just that's all that is going to probably happen. And do I want to continue or not? Though when I joined in 2014, I was like, I want to probably retire as a global medical director. A straight path. Take this up, let's just do this. It's perfect.
Welcome to Health Commune, where we are shaping a healthier world by bridging the knowledge gap between people, doctors, and the healthcare industry, empowering better health for all.
And I had stopped hundreds of people on LinkedIn who'd done that path, and I said, this is wonderful, I'll do this.
Correct.
And then, things started moving. There was a phase I joined during the COVID thing, and then, once COVID became almost normal around 2022, the great resignation in corporate started. Everybody was, moving things, restructuring was happening across because a lot of changes had happened in COVID.
Correct.
Teams had gone virtual, digital, excess hiring had happened,
Yes.
and then sudden changes and stuff was happening. And I felt I was getting a lot of odd role opportunities, in marketing, in pharma competitive intelligence. And I said, there is scope, I should probably think if I am in medical affairs, but people outside are looking at me in a different lens, and I am not introspecting enough to, whether I want to really take up a change or not. And that's where Fitterfly happened. So partly to blame it on Shark Tank. The Shark Tank fever was quite high, and I was a huge fan of the US version and Dragon's Den and all of it. And COVID time, I kept binge watching all of that. And also I got an opportunity to mentor certain startups. So that time Novartis had come up with an opportunity in partnership with a group in Africa in health tech, where we would mentor startups. And I took it up. I got matched as a mentor with certain startups, and I realized it's more thrilling to be on the other side. Of course, giving gyan is the best thing.
Correct.
But if you're on the other side and that hustle, and then pharma being a regulated, nice, slow moving industry, once you've understood your job, your work-life balance is extraordinary.
Correct.
And like I said, I have that chul in me to do different things. I said, let's do this. And digital therapeutics, and it was just sinking in that time. Fitterfly was planning to launch a program in heart health. They wanted to do GTM with pharma, and they wanted somebody with that experience. And in that bond year, so that one little bond year, I had consulted for a startup in this space with PCOS. And that experience was something that, picked up well, because it completed the whole loop. Saying, okay, doctor, pharma, knows something about digital things, knows something about startups, and, has worked in the CVRM space as well. So is a good fit. And that was like a 2-day, 3-day hire. He found me, called me and said, okay, come meet me. There was no interview, nothing. We just had conversations and I was on board. So that's what happened, and wonderful journey, entire, suddenly from a very regulated, process-driven space, you are in startup, figuring out everything on your own. And wonderful 2 years plus I spent there. And, then it just happened that I thought, why not jump into this fully? I'm still in it. It's like in a pool. You have put your legs in, you're enjoying, the water is good, but I've not yet jumped. I'm still drawing a salary, still having that comfort. And I said, let's do something crazy. I was still on the fence, and then the Gujju blood in me and my Gujju father pushed me, saying, I said, I'm quite apprehensive. This, it's suddenly going to stop. All that nice monthly salary, all that company expenses, everything is going to stop, and you're going to now start thinking, that should I have chai ka tapri or should I really have Starbucks, because it's not getting reimbursed anymore. And he's like, business is in our blood. He's like, just jump in, and he said, you never know where life takes you. And he gave me his own life story of, just probably being 10th, not even fully 10th pass, being brought up in quite poverty, in a single room and everything. And somebody just gave him an opportunity. He was doing odd jobs and, was working as an office boy in a stockbroking firm. And somebody just told him, saying, will you come to the stock exchange, inside the exchange? That time it wasn't digital. So he said, will you come in the exchange, and work as a jobber? And he said, but the salary will be lesser than this. And he asked his father that time, saying, his father said, it's okay, take an opportunity. I mean, he was hardly 16, 17. He said, take an opportunity. And, today he's done very well for himself. And so he just said, never know where life will take you. Just take the plunge. And I took the plunge. And that's now, rest. It all looks like, it looks like a very, very long journey. But I think it's in a very short span of time that a lot of things just moved.
Wow. That's pretty inspiring, And we are the product of our belief system. And if you come from a good family, and good is not just like a privilege or the ecosystem, the thought process, especially for entrepreneurs, it's very important that your parents, they have faith in you and they say that, yeah, you can do it, तो घर से ही अगर support मिलता है, it's a big thing, So I'm happy, your father, I should say hello to him someday. Before I get into Iksa, okay, that's where we should be. I really want to ask you one question is, so I'll tell you the background why I'm asking you this. I started my company when I was in the industry for just 4 years. Okay, and I used to, and there is another friend of mine who started his company after being in pharma for 14 to 18 years. He was able to do faster business for sure because the years that he spent in the pharma industry, and he already built those many contacts who were ready to give him business. I didn't do that. Okay, I started because I wanted to start. I always wanted to start my own company and I started with it. I definitely had tougher time to build more contacts and network and everything. So with you, whatever the years that you have worked with multiple companies like MNCs to startups and Novartis. I was also with Novartis. Right. So those company, what are those learnings that you think is helping you today, especially in terms of your leadership skills or your entrepreneurial journey? What are the skills that is coming from the pharma or probably your academics?
I think, a lot is learning on the job, which is then applied at various places. And it happens at a subconscious level without us actually knowing that I'm able to do this because these things help.
Correct.
For example, when I was in Novartis and you were there, and with all due respect, it's a very process-driven organization. I used to get annoyed to a point saying, there is too much process. But today, when I'm building something, I want to build with that culture of process and to get that finicky level of, this is how it should be and this is what will happen. So you learn a lot of those small things. And for me, of course, it's more of ikigai because, I worked in that industry. I worked in the digital health space and now I'm building something in the health tech AI kind of space, which is catering to the pharma industry. So it's like a full circle for me, but lot of learnings come in from each point that has taken, in terms of be it compliance, be it processes, be it cross-functional teams and communication. I was very surprised when I moved to a startup where, explaining to them what a matrix structure looks like was very, very different. But navigating through it and navigating through those journeys becomes easier. So whatever you don't like, I think, that's what I took one conclusion from it, is that whatever I didn't like in a given company is what gave me the best learning, which I've applied everywhere else. So from the first role or even from academia, of probably hierarchical structures that we have in academia, the pace at which research moves, you don't like all of that. And then that kind of learning you bring in saying, okay, I don't want these things definitely in the company. And then you have that desire to learn or curiosity, which is there as a resident, as a student, which starts fading away. When you enter corporate, enter a job, it's like, I want to do only this much. This is my job description. I get paid only for this. And that curiosity starts fading away. But then if you jump again into the entrepreneurship, you have to be extremely curious again. You latch on to every opportunity. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this as well. For example, when you are in academia, there's a project, there's a collaborative project, I want to do this. There's an ICMR grant coming for this, I want to do this. Which goes away. When you come in corporate, you're like, I'm not going to get extra money for this. Why will I put in more effort? But then again, now all those learnings are coming back saying, this small partnership, this project, okay, travel to Pune for a podcast, why not? So that kind of things change. So bottom line is, whatever you liked, you will definitely keep carrying forward. But whatever you didn't like is actually the real learning which is coming back to you.
I'll share my experience regarding this. And one of my company where I was working, ClinSys, it's a part of clinical research unit for Jubilant Pharma. And my HR was there, and he always used to say that whenever you start your own company, HR is very important, all that. And when you are in corporate, you never like your HR. And I started in science, but initially there was no requirement of HR. I was able to manage everything on my own. Today, Nikita is our HR for InScience Health, my first company. And I'm so dependent on her, and I truly understood the value of HR in any organization. I discuss with her and she knows how to communicate it with the team. because I am unfiltered. I think about only the business, project, deadline, timeline, GSTs of the world, everything. But she knows what to communicate properly. And that's one thing that I used to hate during the corporate time. And today I know that I'm so dependent on her. So I truly, resonate with what you are saying. What's your opinion that is it okay to start, and am I asking this to MD Pharmac, that it's okay to start to staying in the companies, corporates and everything for 4 years, 5 years, or is it fine to stay there for 10, 15 years, build your own contacts and then start the business and you don't need to struggle for, talking to the head of the department?
Yeah. There are two ways to it. One, because the pharma industry is a very closed industry and works a lot on network and regard and what time you've built. Rather than time just for networks, I would say once you've identified the right problem to solve in the industry and you start feeling uncomfortable to live with that problem at a system level is the right time to start one. And in terms of contacts, I have a different take on it that, of course it helps. And, with all leverage, my entire CRM is dependent on whatever contacts I have built over whatever little few years that I spent. But because, I'm more connected to the industry and medical affairs in different ways, I have a network which is there. But it's not at the top level. If I would have worked for a few more years and that would have built. But rather if you find somebody, equally crazy like you to get onto your idea and is, visioning the same problem that you are suffering, it's the right time to start.
Correct.
So, both parts of it, and we, both of us in a way have started off a little early from the industry and probably struggled with those contacts at the C-suite level to directly push you in and get it. So there is an uphill task that you do there. But then there's also that drawback, which one of my ex-managers told me when I said I'm leaving and joining a startup, saying, you're doing this at the right time. Had you probably been promoted one more time and would have spent 2-3 more years, you would have been so comfortable with this that you would not have probably gotten that risk-taking appetite. But it's individualistic, but more often than not, once you've spent a longer time, you get so comfortable with it that you don't want to take those risks anymore. Saying why, probably I'm approaching 40s, mid 40s, and you're like, let me enjoy my midlife corporate crisis rather than jump into, an entrepreneurial journey which is going to take me somewhere that I've never imagined. Correct. It works both ways for people, but there's one definite thing that you can't straight start out in healthcare like you can do in tech.
Yes.
That, I know how to build a product and I'll build one. Yeah. That can't happen in healthcare for sure. So 1 year to 1 year or 10 years, whatever suits you, but you have to spend some time in the industry to learn and understand.
And that's what, when we talk about the project or any idea, so mine is like a pakka medico, right? Like MBBS, MD. So client will say that how much time will require to put this thing into the market? I'll say 9 months. That's my basic question. 9 months to karna hi hai. After that toddler age and then dependency on the parent company, after that probably will start so it takes time. If a child is taking that much of time, your product is like your baby, right? Give that time. You can't launch anything in 3 months time or 6 months time. In healthcare, you can't. It takes time. So when the Iksa happened for you, what exactly, when that shift happened?
Right. So, I was anyway in the startup space and then I had two thoughts about it, whether, to continue. Things were going fine, but they reached a bit of a potential stagnation in some way or the other. And of course, partly blaming me that I get bored quickly. So, 2.5 years and I'm like, okay, am I in the right place? Am I intellectually stimulated and what to do? That's where I was getting a lot of referrals from people because fortunately or unfortunately, there are very few doctors who've ventured into the tech kind of space or a startup kind of a dynamism, and people are really looking out for somebody who's worked in that kind of a space who can leverage and bring on people full time to do it. And couple of people reached out with different ideas in a co-founder capacity, and for one, I was very skeptical whether I want to do it because working in a startup, I'd seen challenges that founders face firsthand, very closely, and I said whether I'm prepared or not mentally to deal with all of that. And two, whether the idea will actually fly or not were my concerns. And that's where, one, they talk to me, then they put me in touch with others, etc. And my co-founder reached out to me, just casually saying, I've got your reference from somebody, and let's just talk. And we just spoke. Nothing about the idea, nothing about problem, just a casual introduction. And then after a couple of days, he messaged saying, I really like talking to you. Would you want to talk again? And that's where then he, probed a little. He comes from a consulting background, so he knows how to probe and get those answers, saying what's bothering you, and, would you be open to be a co-founder somewhere? I said, no, never. Never on earth will I want to be a co-founder. I said, I'm happy with where I am, and even if I'm exploring something, I'll probably do something different, but not be a co-founder for sure. And he was like, why? What are your inhibitions? And then I just opened up gradually, in different conversations. And then he allayed all that anxiety and different things, saying, he said, what if there is an idea which merges all the experience you've had so far? And would you be open? So
true consultant statement.
I said, it's brilliant. I said, but there can't exist. I said, how will that something exist where I use clinical acumen, where I use business sense, where I use pharma, where I use tech? I said, I don't think, So said, for me, taking the next step is like, what do I do which leverages everything that I've done so far, and not let these 7-8 years that I've worked go completely waste and go into a different tangent. So he said there can be something like that. And that's where, then the ideation happened, the discussion happened, saying we're trying to solve adherence, we're trying to solve patient engagement and different gaps around it. And, the doctor in me is always still thinking of patient outcomes. We have entrepreneurial mindset about the business elements, but the idea is always there. See, the idea to switch from clinical practice to non-clinical also was to impact patients at scale. So till I don't see patient outcomes, till we don't see that, it doesn't feel great. And then said, we have a proof of concept happening, and this is what we are trying to solve. And what's your take? And let's, break through the GTM and this, and we have some parts and pieces of the product ready, and let's see where it goes. And I said, this seems exciting, and let's get into it. And that's where it happened. All those problems which I had seen, or things which I thought we could do, we picked up one core element of it, with the end goal, of course, of improving outcomes for patients, and also knowing that pharma thrives on revenue. It is very, very commercial, like any business should be. Top line is key. And we said, with a go-to-market with pharma, we realized while we want to do patient outcomes, we want to improve clinical ROI as well. So our entire value proposition comes on, improving ROI, both at the patient level and for the business health as well. So we look at health from both perspectives.
Perfect. Like, that's exactly probably pharma wants to hear. And end of the day, if whatever you do in healthcare is going to benefit patients, so your ultimate goal of helping people live better, healthy life will be taken care. So it's a beautiful model. What exactly it is? What exactly is Iksa?
Right. So we work with pharma companies. Our idea is to bridge the health gap. And, Iksa is short for Ikshana, which in Sanskrit means care with the utmost sight. So as a business, we want a thorough vision, but for all our patients, we want a lot of care. 3 stakeholders in healthcare, key stakeholders. Doctor-patient relationship. Our core guiding principle is that is sacrosanct. Everything else should support them. We should not do, and the problem with a lot of things in healthcare is most people build things which takes the patient away from their doctor. And what we thought is that's not the way. The doctor wants to be in the loop. He doesn't have enough time. And time is finite. How do you solve for that? Doctor wants to do best for their patients, irrespective of whatever today the society has, duality around it. But we've gone through all of it. It's only a crazy person who will work 48 hours non-stop and have lunch at 6 p.m. Only so that patients can do very well, right? And all doctors have done that. So they all have the best interests in mind. And they want to help patients, but then how do they do that? Right? Resource constraint and time constraint is a big thing. Doctors are not great with technology as well. And they have, again, trust issues with that, saying what is technology going to do and will it take the patient again away from me or not? So we thought, let's bridge this. There's always that thing that patients feel that doctor didn't give me enough time, didn't tell me enough, and that's why I'm not following all the advice. Doctors believe that there is, patients forget things. They have too many questions, which eats up into my OPD time, and I cannot solve everything in one go. How do we balance that with technology? Was our first thing, that we want patients to be compliant so that they get better outcomes if they follow everything that a doctor tells. But a doctor also has to tell a lot of things. How can they tell you a lot of things? And that's where artificial intelligence and conversational AI comes in. And we were fortunate enough, our tech co-founder comes with a background where he's done patient engagement and has data of clinical trials over 8 years, 65,000 patients who've had 60 million interactions. And we've seen in real time what actually patients are talking, what they want to know about their therapeutic journey. And then build in AI. So we have a proprietary model that, notifies the entire journey. So you create biopsychosocial notes of a patient which notifies, and then you dynamically can personalize. We look at Netflix today, we look at e-commerce, quick commerce, everything is personalized to you, right? I mean, the moment I reached Pune and my last visit was at the Chelaram conference in JW, the first location it asked me is, do you want to go to JW?
Correct.
So that level of it. But in healthcare, that doesn't happen. If you try that in healthcare, it's very difficult. The doctor knows it. The doctor actually personalizes treatment for an individual patient, but doesn't know what happens to the patient, particularly in chronic care, where follow-ups are like after a month or 3 months minimum. You have no visibility.
Correct.
We want to fill in for that visibility where this journey can be beyond the clinic journey. Basically, it's engagement, in a way where you bring a customer experience which is out of the world for the patient.
Got it.
The doctor wants to do it but doesn't have the resources. Who else can benefit from this? Is pharma. Right? Pharma needs insights. They have no insights today, behavioral insights into mapping patients at the cohort level. See, for regulations, they can't reach the patient individually and promote or ask anything, but understanding the patient journey, understanding those behavioral insights that come in, and understanding how the doctors also want beyond what they are doing today. Not that they want to just go to CMEs or want just honoraria. They also want a differentiated form of engagement. And what better can be a differentiated form of engagement which is truly patient centric. So hence we thought we bridge the engagement gap at the physician level and at the patient level, where pharma is supporting the doctor-patient relationship, which is sacrosanct, by remaining in the background and staying there, and we also stay in the background. So for the patient, they are doing it with the doctor's support team only, not knowing who has paid for it, not knowing the technology partner at the back end, while it's free for them. So, somebody has to pay for it. So I think that's where the GTM comes in.
It's new, but you have already completed the pilot, and, proof of concept is already been done, and you're already in talk with companies, those who are interested. More importantly, I feel the patients, once they get to know, there will be more interest for physicians as well, because it's directly helping them. Though the information about a drug is available on net or internet, India, we do not have many websites. Like in Novartis, every patient-centric website used to be there.
Correct.
And all the patient information, you'll get it on the website. US, it is mandatory, but in India, we do not have that thing. So I'm sure the patient will get largely benefited. And if doctors are able to solve the problems with technology, than actually personalize, explaining everyone about every medication that they are prescribing. It's a big problem that you're solving, right? So are you raising funds for this whole system?
So we're bootstrapped. We are in the process of, closing a strategic angel. And it's interesting. It's again a very interesting journey about raising funds, particularly for healthcare. And the pharma industry being very closed, I think a lot of our funding conversations happen around explaining to them how the industry works. of where this solution fits in, what
To
the
whom? To
pharma
investors.
budgets look like to the investors. It's a different thing. It's like explaining pharma industry 101,
Correct.
like a class for them. So happens also. A lot of them we heard from experiences have not had very great experiences in healthcare. Like that kind of returns and that kind of things have really not. There have not been any very great unicorns which they are able to relate to in healthcare. In India, again, a lot of VC funding or others investors are very focused on consumer and direct to consumer selling. So even within healthcare, anything with direct to consumer is something that excites them a little more.
Yeah, e-pharmacy.
Compared you can have dime a dozen, but so it excites them, right?
Correct.
Even that, or even then they're like, okay, there's no app, and then you're not selling who's doing patient acquisition, who's doing doctor acquisition. Okay, B2B SaaS in healthcare. Okay, to selling to pharma. Will pharma pay again? Will they do that? So, very interesting level of conversations. But I think one key insight sometimes, when you have these conversations is like, should we also be on the other side, like do something for the healthcare founders community in general that I'm sure everybody is struggling through this, because understanding healthcare is very difficult. Maybe sometimes I feel that, as a doctor, sometimes I feel like, why are they not understanding? Like, this is so simple.
Correct.
This is what happens every day. But then we have to look at it from their perspective also, right? They're all mostly finance people or people with different backgrounds and now I realize healthcare has been a very closed industry. While for us it looks very open. Like, for any outsider, it's actually a very black box kind of an industry where they don't really understand what is going inside.
Correct.
So that's been there, but it's an interesting journey, I think. And we went through again the same founder's dilemma on just take money or take the right money, get the right partners and strategic investors on board. So, and bootstrap, and then see how it's going till we have the direction going in the way we want it. Let's see how we can work on that. So,
but is it easier in terms of like reaching out to investors or finding their interest because you are AI driven? Nowadays, everybody wants to invest in AI.
Yes, I think the AI hype cycle is for real. You have a lot of inbound outreach as well from investors coming in that you're building in the AI space. At the same time, within the hype cycle, there's also a lot of people thinking, oh, what different are you bringing within AI? Like, everybody has .ai on their website today.
Yeah.
So some of them are very vocal about that as well, that is there. But the interest is higher because of AI. And the reason is, we are going through that hype cycle. It's becoming a part of everyday life. And then how do you differentiate within that AI? And healthcare AI again stands out because it's not just technology and then you have healthcare to it. So the interest levels are quite high. But again, most funds and most people are, sector agnostic, as they all like to pitch themselves as. So for them, again, getting into that niche of healthcare and gets different. Also depends on the people you're talking to. So sometimes I feel, I should take up some short assignments in healthcare advisory to investors and others that, who are you talking to? Sometimes, you talk to people who really don't understand that front of the industry. Like they're not front facing, they're not commercial leaders to whom the solution actually helps. They're probably not even talking to doctors or they're not talking to the right people in corporate. You generally pick up who you know in healthcare and you're like, okay, tell me something about this and how this solution happens. So it's an interesting journey, I think. Understanding that whole investment VC startup dynamic has been very interesting. Has its ups and downs, but I think.
There is one startup reached out to me on LinkedIn by saying that we have built something in the field of genetics and it is going to help doctors for genetic counseling. But when I'm going and talking to the doctors, nobody's interested in what I'm doing. So I said, go and talk to the diagnostic companies. So for me, it was like, my doctor will be interested in this. Okay? They are not interested in what you're doing. They are not going to, doctors won't pay for all these things, but somebody else will. For me, it was two statements, 2-line email response.
Right.
But then the founder reached out to me and they said that we were like struggling for 3-4 months kind of a thing. So I know that in our system we understand the system. Being a doctor, you know that how it works, but for us, but outside it must be tougher. I don't know. We are not the outsiders, so we can't even tell that how it is. But and I'll ask this question to you again when we'll do the revisit of this podcast. Okay, once you raise the funds, 2-3 years down the line, that if you want to say that anyone who's a healthcare startup founder and they are going through the same journey as you of raising funds, what's your current learnings? What are the things that within 1 year of time, what you have learned that you were like, oh, I wish I would have known this 1 year back?
I think it's a lot of reiterations. Getting that story right in terms of explaining that they come from an outsider's perspective. And it's, of course, you learn only when you do it. But one quick tip I can give or something to other health companies is that prepare your pitch and other elements from a very, very outsider perspective. Probably don't do a dry run with your team or others. Do it probably for a layperson who doesn't understand healthcare at all or doesn't understand technology at all, and then see how that works. So one is that. Two is in healthcare again, ROI of who's paying, how it's happening, what that kind of your financial models are. Sometimes healthcare founders, if they're first time founders may struggle with actually showing how that is happening, because see, it's an ecosystem, but the society only sees healthcare as doctor and patient. So the moment you pitch a solution, is like, where is the doctor, where is the patient, do you have data of doctors, do you have data of patients, where the acquisition is happening. So if you can break it down, the more simple you can make it, I think that helps a lot in terms of reiteration and learning on those fronts. Two, I think there is a dearth of healthcare focused funds which do that. So reaching out there in that domain becomes key. See, for us, we are AI, we are also B2B SaaS, and we are healthcare. So for us, the VC industry is very broad. Somebody who's looking at a niche in healthcare, see and find the right partner. And not just while raising funding, I think it's easier said than done, but be very, very cautious in terms of where you're doing, because healthcare requires patient money.
Correct.
Healthcare ROI is not the way other industries work or consumer or even tech works. You need a lot of time for healthcare to actually come out and give you those kind of returns for the VCs as well. So you need somebody who's had that background in terms of portfolio companies and that kind of research, rather than just taking anything. I'm sure everybody's doing their due diligence, but we personally feel, and I feel, you need somebody who's invested in the vision, because they also care or see the same problem. And it's not just giving the money upfront. So that sometimes helps you. Look at also people who can help you along the way, who can open doors for you, not just give you that seed capital. And two is, don't be too desperate. I think that's also a key learning, because if you take that effort for a long time, you will end up becoming desperate. And I think we took that conscious choice of being bootstrapped and letting things run for itself, keeping the burn very low, etc. It was a conscious choice, but not many people might take it, because it's very lucrative. You have a lot of VCs reaching out, investors reaching out, you suddenly see a lot of valuation and other elements, and you get carried away. And sometimes in that getting carried away, you dilute a little too much than you actually should have at an early stage. And you also then don't know whether you're giving away the control of your company at what stage. So having people with that shared vision helps, and the VC community is great. A lot of people, a lot of support. Is just you have to find the right people at the right time.
Okay, nice. No, and are you involved in any kind of, like, I think in the past you were involved in startup mentoring.
Yes.
So are you continuing that work?
So I do it in a personal capacity, on platforms which offer mentorship, or in individual capacity where people reach out on LinkedIn and all. I like doing that in terms of giving back to the community and sharing learnings. I think it's a two-way street. Sometimes, there's a lot of reverse mentoring that happens without you realizing when you are talking to people and doing that. And like you mentioned your example that you just told them that you're reaching to the wrong people in 2 lines, and that probably changed the course of the way they're looking at things. And it's all about those small tweaks.
Correct.
And mentorship is all about those small little things that can open doors or change the way they are looking at things or problems. Sometimes I've had people come earlier trying to solve healthcare, no healthcare co-founder or anything. And the problem that they were trying to solve looked very nice, I think, on Excel and on PowerPoint. And I kept probing them that, who's going to buy this and who's going to pay for this. And there was no clarity in terms of that. And I said, it's great, but I don't think people will want to pay for this. And the person reached out later saying, I pivoted. I understood, maybe the first time it felt harsh, but then I spoke to 3-4 more people and I gave my own contacts as well. And why don't you speak to others in that domain? And that can help and change things. So within the founder community also people reach out and I think those small little tweaks help people, and helping goes a long way, I think.
I personally am connecting with many AI solutions, those who are trying to solve healthcare problems for India. We have recently done podcast with Dr. Bhaskar, a good friend of mine. He works very closely with the government programs, Indian Institute of Science and Art Park project. And with him, I got to know that what are the AI solutions that are already there that we have integrated for our community level programs that are there, right? Like for maternity and maternal and child care programs related to vaccination, infectious diseases. And my personal thing is like if AI is solving a problem, in place of just solving grammatical correction problems or can create a content for me problem, I think AI should solve healthcare problems. It's much needed here, and there are solutions that are very difficult, and for years we are not able to solve those problems which AI can do now.
Right.
So I really encourage startups, those who are building AI. I tell them, okay, try something in healthcare.
Right.
And there is something that we are working where we'll be able to find what is that to try for, right? Like those things we are actually focusing on. So what's your take on AI in healthcare?
I think, like you said, it's very broad and people should do it. Unfortunately, people push a solution in healthcare before finding out the real problem. And most people struggle with that at that point. But the scale, particularly if you're building in India, the scale is very huge. You can actually solve for a lot of problems. One is equity. Health equity is something, access, which we've always been challenging in talking. We tell people, non-Indians, when I talk to them, I said India is dichotomy. It's a dichotomous country. It's not unity in diversity, all that is there, but it's dichotomous. You have corporate hospitals, you have medical tourism where people across the world will want to come to avail the best healthcare facilities. At the same time, you have people struggling to get basic things. Every few days we read in the papers that they have to walk a few kilometers to get this, or somebody delivered on the way, or a child couldn't be delivered because of healthcare facilities. So that's something that technology can solve in a big way. Healthcare also comes with a lot of administrative burden, which again technology can solve and free up actually space for your healthcare workers. I think the programs that you are referring to in maternal child health are brilliant. The ASHA workers getting those apps and doing AI based stuff is something really amazing, and people are doing great work in AI. I think it's a matter of fact in terms of this whole question of who will pay. Last month, the TI happened in Bangalore, the global stage, and this was one point that people brought up, that we want to bring it, probably take it to the government, take it to different societies on who will pay. Problem in healthcare is, while everybody wants to do patient-centric things, do the best for the community, everybody wonders what is going from my pocket, what's in it for me, right? Hospitals have their own agendas, own things to solve for. Pharma has their own agendas and things to solve for. And then everybody is dependent on the government. The government says, I have 100 other things to solve for. Of course, healthcare is primary, but then there are other things as well. So people today, have an idea, have the solution, but don't know where I fit this in. And that's where I think things will change. That needs to change in some way. And today a lot of focus is on screening. AI is being used at like you said, for content generation. That way in healthcare, a lot is being used in screening. And of course, some of my favorite companies are in that space because they are doing great things, right? You see a routine X-ray and can predict.
Correct.
So the loop is not getting closed with AI. You have silos building for predictive analytics. You have siloed things building for personalized healthcare. You have silos building for access. Who is going to bridge that loop?
Correct.
I think if that loop closes with AI, it changes. With all said and done with AI, there is that risk. And healthcare, you can't take risks. So till the guardrails are in place, till ethical frameworks are in place, you are still operating in a gray zone. So that also is a very big factor which people ignore in the AI hype cycle, that it can do a lot of things, but what are all the risks involved? And there is nothing standardized in that space as well. So sometimes, you have early movers who've done things and got away with it. And then there are going to be people saying, are we creating frameworks which is stifling, curiosity or entrepreneurship? So that's where we are navigating, and it's work in progress for a couple of more years.
Correct. Just to add to what you said is, we always talk about that those 10 slides, the pitch deck, and Airbnb deck is very famous. It's all over the internet. Every startup person should see that, and they solve the problem in 3 steps. And so when we were working on Health Commune, the phase 1 of Health Commune, we were thinking, okay, how we are going to create the awareness content. We started with, so first thought is like, okay, do Medra coding therapeutic area based, disease based. So let's create content for diabetes, cardiology, this. We're like, but people won't understand. Let's do it like regional language, Marathi, Gujarati, Tamil, Telugu, all those things. Then there is a content for doctors, there is a content for patients, there is content for patient caretakers, there is a content for technicians. Okay, so when I'm talking about one clinical disease or clinical condition, that one topic can be addressed to many different people. If I'm focusing on caregiver, then I'm focusing on caregiver. The information is very different compared to what's there for the patient. Very different for the doctor who's referring patient to another doctor.
Right.
So we can't solve the problem in 3 steps the way Airbnb shows the slides, right?
Absolutely.
My slide will be like a big rangoli over there, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference when we try to solve healthcare problem. It's multi-layered, and everything. And then the regulation, and then multiple super specialities, and then the regional languages. And in India, it is government setup, private setup. Oh my God. It's really, really, really complex structure. So I agree. And then somebody needs to understand this. And I know, I wish on this platform, if somebody will comment and answer us, who's going to pay? Are patient going to pay this for all what we are creating? Doctors? Why every time it's a pharma company or a biotech company or a device company or the industry who pays? Or it's a government who's going to help us to build all the structures, or startup companies? That's a big question we should ask, right? One thing I always wanted to ask, but I think you're the first doctor entrepreneur on our podcast. I talked with clinicians. No, you're second. I talked with Bhaskar as well. But now he pivoted completely. Is it difficult for doctors to become entrepreneurs?
I think it's not. The answer is no. But people don't become because it's a mindset thing. Yeah. And it's because we feel our degree is a shackle. It's binding us. Like we are burdened by the weight of our degree. When in fact, it's actually a propellant. It's actually something which will pull you anywhere. The rigor that doctors have, the sincerity that they have, the analytical skills that they have, they can do anything. I'll be boastful of the fact that as 2 doctors sitting here, I can say that very freely that we can do anything. The problem is the mindset of doctors of we don't want to do anything. Reason is, this is how the medical curriculum works. You are not allowed to do anything else because there is no time. If you do anything else, if there's a distraction, you will not complete your course in the right way. What changes over time is that you don't like all that, but you still become that. And there is no systems level thinking. You are so bound by your patients, you're so bound by the hospital and clinic and those things, you don't think that way. the dawning moment came on me when I entered the pharma industry, when started talking to non-medicos, and I realized that for all my time before this, I've only spoken to people who are doctors, maybe of different specialities. And my only learning and only discussions that we are having as friends is, I saw this patient, yeah, ye HOD ka ye ho gaya, this, that. And now I'm suddenly talking to sales, marketing, PR. I'm talking to very different people, and there are very different conversations that are happening about the world, which in medical field you've not really done. So it's just about you taking that first step out and thinking less like a doctor, more like a general person, layman. It's actually like Harry Potter, we think we are wizards and everybody else are like, mere mongrels, like normal people. So we keep saying, no, layman.
Layman, yeah.
Think like a layman, and the world is very big for us as well. So it's not difficult. From having the right, aptitude for it, it's not difficult. The mindset shift is what is very difficult for doctors. So it doesn't come easily, even in the industry, medical affairs places the flack of not being very business friendly, saying, oh, you think like a doctor. You're not thinking about business. So that needs to come in a little early. I think that will change. Just day before I was at ICT talking, they've implemented the new education policy. So the engineering students have a minors in management, and it's fortunate to go and talk to them. I was just thinking when I was talking there that, this should also be done for doctors, where as a little minor, they come and talk about, business and other things. It'll help you everywhere. You may not want to be an entrepreneur like probably I am or others are, but even setting up your own clinic and running practice is entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So you need those skills. So, even if you think mere se nahi ho paega or I can't do this because I've never done business, if you're running your own clinic, it's business.
It's a business, correct.
It is business. You are using all models of how you are establishing your practice, how you are networking with other doctors to get referrals. That's what business is, right? Business is getting people to pay, getting clients and doing that. So it's not tough.
Yes. And nowadays, if you look at, if we take the example of clinics, they also do marketing on their own. Right? So many doctors are there on Instagram speaking about their services, showing their clinic, giving education to patients online. So marketing also they take care, right? Like right from branding to marketing. I agree. It's a business in itself. But then when it goes into, running your own setup versus creating a solution for larger audience, mass population, there the business slightly it'll change. And the moment you involve more investors and all, it'll change even further. I agree. So, but that journey is not something that you can't. If you can clear your MBBS and MD and mandatory rural service, hopefully they can. But I agree. It's a shift. It's a mind shift that's required. Like if we talk about people that you have addressed in last 1 hour of our communication, you talked with people, those who are like startup owners, doctors, pharma companies, investors. Okay. These are the 4 main people that we talked about. Whom you want to address to? What's your message for the day that you want to say that, okay, this is what is the conclusion or the summary of my talk for the day?
I think the summary aligns back, without sounding too salesy, to the vision that we have at Iksa is bridging the health gap. And all the stakeholders you mentioned there are key in doing that. And to do that is all the other things we spoke about, right? The mindset shift, the journey, the learnings, the experiences, all of it is to bridge this health gap. I think what you are also doing at Health Commune in a way is aligned with that overall vision where you are trying to fill in those gaps, right? And that's what all these journeys are about. So we all need to fill those gaps, see the right things, and eventually see how are we impacting that thing in a big picture kind of thinking, right? Like you probably started with creating awareness and education, and the stories you told me about how Health Commune podcast can change lives of certain patients, make them aware in certain way, how it gives doctors a platform to talk to people and understand those things, how you're now reaching out to startups and bringing that kind of a matchmaking scenario where you have startups, you have investors, you have potential clients, you have people others in the healthcare industry as stakeholders. So I think my key message is that we all should stop looking at healthcare in silos. We should look at it as an overall system and be patient centric in the true sense, not a buzzword. And we should bring that and leverage technology for it. So we all say we are patient first in healthcare. In technology, they always say we are AI first or tech first. I think, again, that distinction should just dissolve. We don't need those lines anywhere. Let's just break those silos. So one is, breaking the silos and bridging that gap.
Okay. Oh, that's perfectly... you are preparing for your investment, right? Okay. Thank you. Thanks. It's not easy to... I don't enjoy going to Mumbai. Okay? The whole day will just go and then you are so tired by the time you come back. Right. Thank God Saturday, you have Sunday tomorrow, but there is no Sunday for entrepreneurs, so I can understand that as well. But thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I've learned so much today in terms of your whole evolution, right, from MBBS to MD to now, building something that everybody wants to dream about, right? The AI-based startup, and you're raising the funds. I'm definitely looking forward to speak to you after 1 year or 2 years.
Sure.
And see how this whole discussion, how you evolved, Now imagine on the same platform, we are talking after 2. It will be fun.
It will be the butterfly moment. We'll actually see, and, we manifest on this podcast that, I come again and come with Iksa being bigger than what it is today.
We should do that. I wish you luck. Okay, I really want you to reach out to more pharma companies, and I want pharma companies to partner with you. So doctors and patients will exactly get what they should be getting about knowledge about that particular drug and medication, also the devices. So all the best.
Thank you so much.
Usually I don't say this on the platform, but I really want you to wish luck.
Thank you so
reason is your solution is beautiful. It's beautiful and it's actually solving the problem. Thanks for taking out time.
Thank you so much.
I thank you from my team.
Absolutely. Thank you for the lovely team that is there. It's been great. It's been worthwhile traveling so far today. So thank you so much.